Story 1. 3 main reasons, in my opinion. It is obvious to everyone they are less sexually attractive because society values sexual attractiveness. Society as a whole does not care about male feelings. The cruel human need to ridicule others in order to feel superior, also known as ego orgasm. Story 2. Because being a short man is seen as a violation of our protector and provider role in society. It is assumed that a short man is less physically capable than a tall man. Therefore, a short man provides less social utility. Society says a man who has no utility, who provides no services or value to others, is a degenerate. Short men must work much harder to assure others that they can be providers or protectors. They must work harder to assure others of their social value. Story 3. Being a short person myself, I have often questioned this. I have stood next to a tall guy and had a group of women laugh and make fun openly. However, when I question why they wouldn't do this to a fat or thin person, there is no answer. It's a strange thing, especially considering it's something completely out of one's control. Story 4. For some people, it's the reaction. If you react to it, they love it and they'll keep saying it. It's like a power play. I knew a guy in university who was always mocked for it, and I had to take him aside one day and tell him they were jerks. They liked the way he reacted, so they kept doing it. He stopped reacting that week, and by the next week it was too boring to call him short or tease him. It won't work for everyone, but if you've noticed people do this and you react, try not to react. Treat it like they're a kid who hasn't been taught better by their parents, and they just made a mess on the dining room table, and their parents are trying to act like it's cute. People like to bully others for the reaction they get. It satisfies them. So, if they're doing that, take it away or try to make them feel uncomfortable. It won't work for everyone, but for the people it will work for, I'm commenting. Story 5. Okay, you have the wrong page. This needs to be on the subreddit Ask Women. Asking men why they are men is redundant. The quick answer is women are looking for bragging rights with other women. Story 6. Where? I'm 5 feet 6 inches, and the only thing making me feel short is questions like this. According to Reddit or whatever, I'm a short king or whatever. I've admittedly been out of the dating pool for about 9 years though. Short king, little king, whatever. Forget you, I'm just the king. Going for their knees first because they're the only thing within punching range and bringing you down to my level to talk. Story 7. I'm going to be honest with you, man. As a short man, I rarely get any criticism. I get lightly made fun of by my friends, who wouldn't do that if I wasn't okay with it. That's something that really doesn't exist outside the internet unless you're excessively short. And even then, most people have the decency not to make fun of you if that's something you're insecure about. Don't be a victim. You are the only one worried about your height. And if you're not, whoever is superficial and not worth your time. Story 8. Men as a whole are openly ridiculed in Western civilizations, but here is why I believe that short men, in particular, are ridiculed, double standards, and people going unchecked. From my understanding and what we have seen on social media, this all started when people began to shame men for being short. This sparked outrage due to the double standards of body shaming. People would mock short men for something they can't control but would get upset if they were criticized for something they could control regarding their own body. This was a really unfair point to make by the people shaming short men. It became particularly popular with women shaming men. Women in the United States had increased standards when it came to the men they dated. I guess you could say it became a trend to mock and belittle men. This wasn't helped by the fact that a lot of these people went unchecked because whenever you'd refute them, they would get upset about how wrong you are. The other reason I believe it became more apparent with women is because women tend to criticize how you look. I don't see men ridiculing other men for their height. Even when I did, it was nowhere near the extent to which women ridiculed men for their height. Story 9. Because of the so-called patriarchy, men are horrible creatures, so it's fine to make fun of them and put them down. Just don't do it to a fat woman, or you will get cancelled. Story 10. When guys do that to me, I just laugh it off and make it awkward for them by calling them daddy and big man afterwards. It doesn't actually happen that often anymore, though. I found that if you show it doesn't bother you, they stop, and as you get older, you get to choose not to bother with the people who don't. Story 11. I just watched Nimona on Netflix. By itself, it was a very great movie with a good message. The message of the film was to be who you are and embrace it. But in one scene, they mocked a guy for his small penis in a movie for children. Just weird. Story 12. I am 5'6" and was pretty athletic. I could outjump taller people in basketball all the time. I didn't know height was such an issue until I got to college and people started pointing it out or citing it as a negative. I had enough women interested in me then, so I didn't think too much about it. After college, it was even more of an issue in the general population, especially when I started online dating where ladies can just filter you out. I was talking to a girl at a bar and she flat out said she likes tall guys, which was a shocker and rude. I would have liked to date more women, but I dated. I have been married to an attractive woman for 20 years now. I still get criticized for it, discriminated against on my sports teams, but I can play basketball, so that goes away. However, I resent having to prove myself where mediocre tall guys get preferential treatment initially. Work, I probably get passed over, but I'm happy where I am right now, so I can't complain. Why do short men get ridiculed? Probably because most taller guys think they can take you in a physical confrontation. In general, I move through the world more comfortably than tall people. My tall friends are always complaining about planes, showers, and so on. I think it's sad because there's a genetic or nutrition component that I had no control over. Story 13. So I am 5'1" living in the United States and deal with this on a regular basis. I've been lucky enough to build a semi-successful career in the military and find an amazing woman who loves me for who I am, not what I look like. I was fortunate enough when I was young to have supportive family and friends that kept me from going down the dark side like the bagel boss guy, so I've built up very thick skin when it comes to this treatment. Granted, I'm in the military, so a certain amount of ribbing can be expected. My direct supervisors have routinely mocked my height regularly over the years. I've found that the only way to stem the tide is to get ahead of them and be the first one to joke about my own height. But the point remains valid. If a supervisor were to mock a junior enlisted member about their weight, or a female about the size of their chest, or basically any other physical difference that the person had no immediate control over, they would be reprimanded immediately. As far as I can tell, the main reason short people are mocked so openly is there is simply no societal defense against it. If you were to mock a woman for something she had no control over, men and women would flock to their defense. If you mocked a man who had some deformity due to an accident or genetics, society would come to their defense as well. But the simple fact of the matter is there is no such social protection for short men. If you have difficulty dating, you get told that you just need to work on your personality or be more confident, despite the fact that a significant number of women simply aren't interested in a partner if you aren't taller than them, and ignoring the fact that confidence is built off of successful attempts. If you get passed over for a promotion at work, it's because insert reason here. This has happened to me personally. Despite scoring in the upper 90% of the military standardized testing for job knowledge, and routinely demonstrating a higher level of expertise than the people that were supposedly training me, I was told by my leading officer that I didn't possess the capability to master the complexities of my military occupational specialty and recommended for reassignment. If you look at Title VII, it's perfectly legal to discriminate in the workplace based on height. So the answer is basically that it's okay to pick on or make fun of short men because no one cares about short men. Society places a lesser value on us for a number of reasons, and if you attempt to draw any attention to that fact, you get further ridiculed. If you attempt to stand up for yourself, you have little man syndrome, and if you rise above and become successful and confident, you have a Napoleon complex. Story 14. So there is science to it, so men under 5 feet 5 inches are considered short, right? Well, psychologists tell us women are drawn to physically imposing men for mating purposes. I think social media also has made women think that there are a lot of tall men when there are not. I stand almost 6 feet, my son is 6 feet 1 inch, and my 18-year-old is 6 feet, and outside of a few people, I very seldom see people taller than me. So, these women that think there is a 6 feet 2 inches plus guy out there for them are crazy. What is really disturbing is that a normal height 5 feet 8 inches is being labeled short when that is insane. Story 15. I think there is a really big group of all genders that does not find this okay. But there are also a lot of toxic people of all genders who like to bully, and one thing toxic women have picked as a weak point that hurts is height. Story 16. It seems more of an internet and online dating problem. I stay away from parts of the internet where short men are ridiculed and stay away from online dating altogether. I don't go out to shallow places like nightclubs, too. I have had flings in the past as a very short man, but I prefer solitude, so those ended. If women have a problem with me being short, I couldn't care less. If anybody is rude to me about it, I will just tell them they are a miserable scumbag. If it is believed that men under 6 feet 3 inches are not real men, good. At 5 feet 4 inches, I get to be a kid with a job, so I don't have to grow up. I still like Lego. Story 17. As a short guy myself, I have had dates walk out on me, instantly unmatched when they find out I'm 5 foot 6 inches. I've had incredible difficulty getting women to go on dates with me, and it is a huge point of insecurity that I have zero control over. Evolution deemed that tall men are strong, protective, hunters, whatever. Short men didn't die out from evolution, so we still have purpose in this world and can survive. But I don't know why it's so hard. But it is. Story 18. Men will be ridiculed for anything and everything, and no one will bat an eye. You need to develop a thick skin for this and wit for comebacks to shut it down immediately. Story 19. I am on the shorter side and have never been ridiculed for my height. One of my friends was at least 3 inches shorter than me and was getting dates without any issues. This seems to be a very American problem, and even then, I am very doubtful of the actual amount of criticism short men receive in the United States. My advice is to get away from toxic people who are okay with ridiculing you, and from the comments that validate and amplify their anger and frustration. You'll be in a much better state of mind once you realize good people don't care about height. Story 20. Mostly because basketball players make millions of dollars, height might seem important. However, it wouldn't matter if there wasn't an evolutionary advantage behind it. It's a bit ironic because an average height person is more likely to survive biologically. Tall people's hearts often give out like those of Great Danes, and they may be more likely to be sociopathic, which is why they can become chief executive officers of companies that exploit people without remorse. So perhaps that is another reason height is preferred. Money. Simply because it is preferred, it is a social construct used to maintain an in-group or popular group in good standing. Story 21. Because the expectations of a lot of women are most of the time muscular or fit, tall, at least 6 feet, confident and wealthy. And to support or satisfy these standards, a lot of men try to uphold others to them as well, while it is also a sure-proof way that is labeled as an insult or a weakness. It goes without saying that it is foolish, of course, because men that support other men in whatever they are doing, as long as it is nothing bad or hurting others, are also seen as more confident about themselves. Belittling others about something is often also tied with someone's own insecurities and fears. But to answer your question in a short way, a lot of it comes from the expectations women have. I can assure you I, as a guy, heard taller than me from nearly every woman in my past more than I have heard them not saying it. Story 22. The same reason redheads, bald people, very tall people, and overweight people get ridiculed. Dickheads are going to act like dickheads, and they pick out and pick on anyone who they perceive as even slightly outside of the norm. Story 23. Apparently, it is okay to ridicule a man's body. But if you do that to a woman, you are sexist and should be banned. It is yet another double standard. Story 24. I'm 5 feet 2 inches. It's not just women who do this. I have literally been patted on the top of the head by a random stranger as he walked past me on a night out. Story 25. I am short and do not understand what you mean by being ridiculed. I have noticed that people treat me differently than the big guys at work. I worked with a lot of big guys and noticed that some people go out of their way to be friends and flatter them, saying things to me that they would never say to the bigger guys. However, I also noticed that they are bullies and cowards. When I stand up to them, they back down and never mess with me again. One day, while sitting in a chair waiting, I was watching a long line. Everyone that walked in had to cut through the line to get into the building. What I found interesting was that almost everyone picked a small guy or a woman to walk in front of. No one said, "Excuse me," when walking by big guys. I think people were picking who to cut through without even thinking. Story 26. A woman once told me a joke about short men. What do you call a man under 6 feet tall? Friend. Sorry. Just like most men prefer women who are well endowed in certain areas, women prefer men who are tall. It's really a more instinctual thing. A taller mate will look bigger and therefore increase the chances of survival in the face of predators. We're barely out of the jungle, folks. We're really just high-functioning animals driven by primal instincts and reproduction. Don't believe me? Have you ever wanted to stomp that guy who cut you off in traffic? Right?